Today we will change things a little bit. We will be talking about an actual historical figure that became a myth much later after his death. Some people call him the first Egyptologist. His name was Khaemwaset, and this is his story. Khaemwaset was the fourth son of Ramses II, or the Great as some may call him. Already as a child of 4 or 5 years, he accompanied his dad together with his brother on a military campaign. That didn't seem to keep him in the military life though, and in his early 20s, Khaemwaset became a semi-priest of Ptah, kind of an assistant, you could say, to the main priest of Ptah in Memphis. In the year 16 of his father's reign, our prince participated in the burial of the sacred Apis bull. This can't be confirmed by any means, but Khaemwaset might have been touched by this ancient rite, as he's later regarded as the main person responsible for the redesign of the burials and the opening of Serapeum, this time as the main priest of Ptah himself. Serapeum was an underground burial complex where Apis bulls were buried for the next 13 centuries onward. Khaemwaset is sometimes called the first Egyptologist. He left markings on ancient sites, telling others of how he restored them back to their glory. So greatly did he love antiquity and the noble ones who came before, is written. But can this be really counted as a love for history, or is there something more? Now, Khaemwaset had a really famous dad. I don't think there's anybody who is interested in ancient Egypt that haven't heard of Ramses II. Because Ramses II had a really strong habit of leaving his name everywhere. You could say that Khaemwaset couldn't really do that due to his title. Yes, he was an heir apparent in the later part of his life, but he was still just a prince. In Egypt, the need to be remembered for future generations was strong. If people remember you, you live on. So technically, if you do something big like restore a building, you can leave your mark and name there, something that Khaemwaset wanted to do as much as possible. And that's why Khaemwaset may have been interested in Imhotep. Imhotep was a person who achieved divinity and who wasn't a pharaoh. The prince may have even been one of the first starters of his cult. From the writing we know that Khaemwaset might have excavated. I use this word very rarely, but he mentions that he found a statue of Kawab, who was a son of Khufu, buried under a rubble. He took it out and to the temple of Ptah, where it could be admired again. But did he do this because of his love of history, or to connect himself to his royal ancestors and sneakily forge the future generations to remember him? I think it was a bit of both. Yes, Khaemwaset and his dad may have taken stones and material from old temples to build new ones, but they also made sure the previous places remembered. Khaemwaset did definitely restore monuments. It's even entirely possible his writing was on the Great Pyramids talking of his restoration of the structures. Well, before the outer casing was removed during the Middle Ages, now we will never know. So I will let you draw your own conclusion on this. Sadly, the prince can't really tell us himself. As I mentioned, he was the crowned prince for a bit, outliving his 3 older brothers. But his father was seemingly immortal, and Khaemwaset passed on before Ramses II finished his time on this earth. A lot of props go to Khaemwaset, because whatever he tried and did, it worked. Not only was he remembered, he was made into a legend. A character in stories of the Ptolemaic Egypt, named Setne. Only 2 of these stories survive to this day, but nevertheless. Let me take you to a different Egypt in one of them. Egypt of myths, legends, and magic. Setne and the Book of Thoth. Setne was a son of Ramses the Great, a priest of Ptah and also a powerful magician. He spent most of his time reading ancient texts, and so one day he learned of so-called Book of Thoth, which was a magic book written by the god himself. All sources pointed that the book is housed in a tomb of a long-dead prince named Naneferkaptah. Setne and his brother Inaros found the tomb and entered it. The Book of Thoth was there, glowing with magic. But when Setne wanted to take it, he was stopped by a ghost of Naneferkaptah and his wife Ahvere. Ahvere looked at Setne and began her tale on how they acquired the book in the first place and the dangers the book entails. As always, we are in ancient Egypt, so it comes as no surprise that Ahvere and her husband were sister and brother, both kids of the pharaoh. They had a kid together named Merib. One day, Naneferkaptah was just minding his own business in the temple of Ptah, reading here and there. A priest laughed at him there that he's reading only nonsense, but if he wants the real deal, he will tell him where to find the Book of Thoth. This book would grant you magical powers over the sky, the earth, and everything on it. You would be able to understand the speech of animals and see every fish in the waters. If you recite more of these spells, you will even be able to see the gods in the sky. It sounded like a good deal, but the priest wanted money for the information on the whereabouts of the book. He got them immediately. The book was in the middle of waters at Koptos. It all started with an iron box, in which was a copper box, in which was a wooden box, and this went all the way down to a small golden box in which the book resided. These boxes were guarded by scorpions and snakes and whatnot, so beware. Also, another eternal serpent was wrapped around these boxes themselves. Naneferkaptah found his wife after this and convinced her to travel with him to find the book. They arrived in Koptos, where they exchanged their actual boat for a boat and crew made out of wax, which Naneferkaptah made move around like they were real. He forced his wax oarsmen to take him to the place where the book was hidden. As they arrived, Naneferkaptah made an island rise from the water. He killed all the snakes and scorpions. The same fate waited for the eternal serpent, even though that one had to be slashed into 3 pieces in total. Opening all of the boxes of different materials, Naneferkaptah finally opened the Book of Thoth and recited the spells, gaining their magical powers. Back from the island on the boat, he met his wife and son. Ahvere also read the spells and gained their powers. At last, Naneferkaptah copied the spells on a new papyrus, dissolved the written papyrus in beer, and drank it, absorbing all the magic. After that, the family began their journey home, but by then, Thoth had learned of what has happened to his book. Let me just say, he was not happy. Thoth demanded punishment for the family, and as that was said, Merib fell overboard and drowned. Naneferkaptah raised his son out of the water thanks to magic and asked what has killed him. Merib told him that Thoth had demanded it. Well, they buried the boy at Koptos afterwards. After the burial, the husband and wife boarded the boat again, but by the same point in the river journey, Ahvere fell overboard and died. Same deal as with Merib, magic was used, body embalmed and buried in Koptos. When Naneferkaptah traveled alone, by the same point of the river, he tied the Book of Thoth to his body with a linen scarf. After that, he himself fell overboard and drowned as well, the book going down with him. The boat continued back to Memphis, and when it docked, they found the body of Naneferkaptah with the Book of Thoth clinging to the rudder of the boat, and they buried him together with the book. Ahvere finished her tale and told Setne that he has no right to take this book after all they have been through to obtain it. Setne wanted to get the book by force, he didn't care, but Naneferkaptah had other ideas. Let's play a game of Senate to decide. And so they played. But remember that ghosts cheat, especially magician ghosts. And so as they played, Naneferkaptah struck Setne on the head with a game board and sank him to the ground up to his knees. With this, he won the first game, but totally not fair and square. In the second game, Setne sank to the ground up to his nether regions, and Naneferkaptah won again. And the third time, Setne was in the ground up to his ears. Not really a fair game if you ask me, but luckily Setne's brother was nearby, and Setne called out to him to fetch him his amulets and magic books, which his brother promptly did. He placed the amulets on Setne's body, thus freeing his brother. They grabbed the Book of Thoth and ran out of the tomb as fast as possible. Naneferkaptah promised his grieving wife that he will make Setne return the book to them soon enough. Setne's father, the king, urged Setne to return the book when he heard the tale, but Setne didn't listen and read it instead. Sometime after this adventure, Setne was just on a little walk around the public court of the temple of Ptah when he saw the most beautiful woman. It was a daughter of a priest of Bastet named Tabubu. Let's say that Setne wanted to play cards with her in a bet a lot. First, he offered her some gold to go with him, but Tabubu declined. She was a person of the highest rank. If he wants a piece of her, he needs to visit her in her house in Bubastis. And so Setne did just that. He entered her grand estate, came to her bedroom and wanted to unpack his pack of cards when Tabubu stopped him again. She was a high rank and not a lowborn. If he wants her, he must promise her all his possession. Setne did just that immediately. After a contract was signed, a messenger arrived announcing that Setne's kids had arrived to the residence. Tabubu waited for nothing more. If he wants her, he has to kill his kids. And Setne, really running on one brain cell that wasn't in his brain at the time, agreed again. His kids were killed in front of him, thrown to the dogs. At last, Tabubu and Setne lay down, but just as he was about to touch her, she started screaming and Setne awoke. He talked to his father about his dream, and his dad ordered him to go back to Memphis, where his kids were waiting for him, healthy and alive. At last, Setne returned the Book of Thoth to the tomb of Naneferkaptah, and not only that, he had the bodies of Ahwere and Merib returned to the tomb as well, so that they can rest together. The end. This was one of the 2 stories that survive. Setne surely gives a lot of credit to his dreams, but honestly, who could blame him after seeing the ghosts? Anyway, that's gonna be all for me today. I hope you enjoyed the history of Khaemwaset and the magic of Setne. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and bye bye!